open.
Yay.
All right. Hello and welcome to Tabletop Cafe, presented by Tabletop Journeys. My name is Michael. You can think of us as your roadside diner on your tabletop journey, where we serve up bite-sized chunks of gaming goodness for you to use at your table with you and your friends. Joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Chris.
Hello, everybody. Very excited to be here.
And then tonight we have a special guest. He's kind of becoming the unofficial third, and that is Lewanika.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here once again. I love chatting games, and honestly, they'd have to beat me with a stick in order to get me to stop showing up from time to time.
Oh, I forgot to delete or to hide something, so I think I've given away the game. But the goal tonight is we are going to once again try to do what we used to call a synergy session over on the RPG Academy in detention. I don't know that we have a good name for it, like a potluck maybe, because it's like all of us kind of coming together. Is there a word for like three cooks in a kitchen? Is there
too many?
Too many? Yeah, I always heard too many cooks in the kitchen. But essentially, we're going to open a pack of Magic the Gathering cards. I have a pack of Innistrad Remastered, and kind of in real time, we are going to work together to try to use those cards to inspire us to create an adventure, maybe even an entire campaign. The rules are all flexible because we can do whatever we want at any time, but the goal is to kind of use the cards in order and let them build upon each other. But sometimes we may get a card that just doesn't work, or we can't think of a way to make it work, so we might skip it. We could always come back to it, and then hopefully we have it set up correctly so that folks can chat. We'd love to hear what you would do with the cards, what adventure you might come up with, and or because Chris and I both have ran adventures based off of these that we've created in the past. If you do something similar, if you actually run an adventure based on our interpretation or your own, we'd love to hear that as well. So Chris, anything you want to say or do before we jump into the pack of cards?
I'm just excited. I love these. I love coming up with something on the fly.
It's a ton of fun. I know we've talked about doing one of these at a catacon, but we really should think about that, like doing a live one of these sometime. Lewanika, anything you want to say or do before we jump into the show?
I think I'm ready to go, but I was thinking maybe one of the things we could do is perhaps grant ourselves a single heroic inspiration that any one of us might be able to call on throughout the show to pass a card till later. Basically, move it to another part of the deck.
Okay.
And we might even grant one of those
To the audience?
inspirations to the audience. So if somebody in chat wants to chime in at some random time, maybe they can either do us a favor by that or make it infinitely more challenging.
Okay. Yeah, I would be up for that. Again, the rules are flexible. We're still going to do whatever we want, but I do like having a little structure. But it's certainly, if anyone is in chat currently and wants to suggest what they might do with a card, that might be better than what we come up with. And we certainly might just incorporate that going forward. But without further ado, I'm out of practice. I have not cracked a pack of cards in a long time. All right, so I do these in the same order that I would review them. So essentially, we're going to go through the commons first, then uncommons, then get to the rare. If there's any foils or any extra cards, I do keep them hidden. I'm not going to see ahead. And I'm going to, this is where things get a little fishy or hairy. I am going to try to pull them up so that our audience will be able to see them as well. But I'm going to need a little bit of grace for that because it is an imperfect process. There we go. Okay. So if either of you, I don't know if you are able to watch the screen, I got it pulled up pretty well. So hopefully anyone at home watching can see, you two should be able to see, but I'll also read all the details. But if you want to go to like magicthegathering.com or whatever, you can also pull them up and see them on your local screen. But our first card, again, if you're not familiar, Innistrad is very much like a Ravenloft kind of world. It's very monster, zombie, vampire kind of heavy. So our first card is a monster. It's a creature zombie card. It's called the Siege Zombie. It is a black card. It requires 1 black mana and 1 colorless mana to cast. The text says, tap 3 untapped creatures you control, and then each opponent loses 1 life. The flavor text is a barricade only buys time. So the wealthy buy more barricades. And this is a 2/2 zombie. So Chris, you've done this with me. You're an old hand. What are your initial thoughts here, Siege Zombie?
I like the picture of it breaking through the wall. That is a very powerful picture. I like creatures that break through walls and just freak people out. It's not something everybody's expecting. So right off the bat, I say wherever they are, the walls are pretty shady.
Okay. I think, again, it's been a while since we've done these, and the last time we did it, I messed up the audio, so that's my fault. But we can be inspired by anything: the image, the visuals, the flavor text, the mechanics, whatever inspires us. That's what we can take with. But I mean, I think very classic D&D or RPG sort of thing. There's a village somewhere and there's zombies, but this reads to me like they are aware of zombies. It is a regular occurrence and they are basically prepared. Like they know, hey, this time of the year, this time of the month, whatever, we have to make sure that we are secure. But this time their normal precautions are not enough for some reason. What are you thinking, Lewanika?
Yeah, I was thinking similarly that for whatever reason, the heroes in this adventure are perhaps on rest. They're at the building that's been converted into a dining hall for the folks that man the palisade walls, the wooden palisade walls, and they expect that this siege of undead that is out there in the land is at bay at this time, and they're going about their day to day. And all of a sudden, there's horrendous noises, crashes, sounds, and screams of terror. And basically, one of the walls or one of the buildings, something has been breached, and the hordes are starting to stream into the fortification. And the heroes are taken by surprise. And this loss of life that they talk about is basically the damage taken by all protectors, not just our intrepid heroes, in the initial assault.
Yeah, could also be that maybe this is already we're already partway through a campaign, and the heroes have already been running from this undead. And they think they found a safe haven, and then they find out that the walls are breached, or somebody's tricked them into thinking it's safe. Could be that the bad guy really is in the keep. Maybe he's the one that's actually controlling them, and he lured them in. Oh, don't worry, we've kept these at bay for years. And then they break through.
One other thing I would throw out, and then we'll basically go to the next card, and then it might retroactively inform more of this one. And this is something I know Chris and I we've talked about before, is the idea of maybe starting a campaign where the players actually start with different characters. So we could have the players start with the low level, just average Joes in the tavern, or maybe they're city watch in a small village or village watch, whatever. And they're all going to die, but they play through like a cold open of a movie or a TV show where this happens. They do their best, but they're overwhelmed. And then our characters come to the scene and go, oh, we have to investigate what happened here. But they have the player knowledge they know what happened, but their characters learn that through an investigation scenes of, oh, it looked like zombies broke through. Oh, it looks like they tried to put up a defense. Oh, maybe there was one survivor who hid in the attic or in the basement, and then they can talk to them as a possibility. So, all right. Anything before we move on to the next card?
I think I'm good.
Oh. Do we have somebody in chat?
Nope.
Okay.
No, not yet.
No, sir. I thought the way you said that, I thought you had something to jump in. All right. So our next card here is called Borrowed Hostility. It is a red instant, requires 1 red to cast. It has the ability Escalate 3. Pay this cost for each mode chosen beyond the first. So essentially it sounds like you can cast it or you can upcast it for 3 additional. You can choose one or both options. Target creature gets +3/+0 until the end of turn, or target creature gains first strike until end of turn. So essentially this is like a buff that you would put on one of your creatures. And the image shows a noble type person, maybe like a vampire noble, holding an axe that has some red, like magical energy, and appears to be like striking at another person or persons beneath them. So basically, it's a red buff to an attack. All right, I'll start with you this time, Lewanika. So what is this card? And then again, if we want to retroactively bring back in the siege zombie, what do you think this card does to add to our possible adventure?
I think this creates a situation, perhaps even a skill challenge, where the party, because we had previously talked about they were in a dining hall or in some kind of downtime type of activity, where they basically have to skill challenge their way to get armed up and ready to get out and into the fight. So like they were unprepared. They were not in armor. So it's, what are you going to do to get out of this dining hall, make your way to the armory or make your way to your barracks and get the things that you would need to have to be able to fight this fight. And the card would represent the actual end result, which is successfully being armed and ready to go versus not making it. So a skill challenge is, I think, what would come here and fit nicely, getting ready to go and perhaps either setting their heroes up for additional successes, granting them, maybe a healing potion if somebody went that right way or whatever, giving you those kind of benefits. But generally speaking, just being armed up and ready to go.
Okay. So for me, I'm thinking kind of the other side, maybe attaching it back to the zombies. I'm also watching The Last of Us, which is about the mushroom zombie apocalypse. I've never played those games. I watched the first season, so I don't really know a lot other than what the show tells me. But one of the elements in season 2, light potential spoilers, is that some of the mushroom zombies are learning, they're adapting. They're not all just mindlessly attacking. They have developed some strategy that is like mimicking human intelligence at some levels. So maybe that's why the zombies from the first card have broken through or are more dangerous than what we would normally expect, is because they are now using just weapons in general, or maybe there's a particular magical weapon that this one particular zombie has found that is making them much more dangerous than just your typical, brainless zombies walking forward. These zombies have, changed, and so they've evolved in some way into more dangerous. Chris, what are your thoughts, sir?
See, I was going a different route. I was going, we're in this keep. They have to borrow a weapon that is particularly effective against the undead, but there's a drawback to it. Like maybe it gives them a rage type effect where they have to roll to see if they're still hostile at the end. Or it just creates hostility because it draws attention to them. I like the idea of them having to get some sort of magic weapon.
So it's almost like they're getting a barbarian's rage ability by a weapon, but there's a drawback of they might lose control and attack their friends. They might run in headlong into danger, type of like Leroy Jenkins into the fray because of it. Okay. All right. I like it. All right. Oops. All right.
I'm taking notes because this is sounding fun.
Oh, I always do when we do this.
All right.
Yeah. I don't think I can show you very easily, but.
All right. So our third card is a green instant. It is called Aim High. It costs 1 colorless and 1 green to cast. The text, untap target creature. It gets +2/+2 and gains reach until the end of turn. The flavor text is a Slayer gets by on wits and reflexes by Higa, the Slayer captain of Gastolf. And the image shows kind of a, what's the guy that, not Belmont, that's Van Helsing, sort of a Van Helsing looking character with like a double bow crossbow looking thing. And it looks like dragons or drakes are behind him. He's hidden behind a tree, or they're hidden behind a tree. But again, Aim High, essentially you get a bonus buff and you can also hit creatures that are normally high up. Chris, what are your thoughts on this card?
Wow. There's a lot on this card that I like. I really like I like the idea that either, this could be something nice that the GM has where, oh no, I made a mistake and this combat's a little more tricky than I thought. Here comes the NPC to help them out. Kind of a mentor, kind of that Van Helsing that swings in and helps them save them. Or vice versa. They're now the hero that has to swing in and save them. I mean, maybe the setup for the whole idea of the campaign is that the zombies have broken through and the party is the one that comes in to save them.
All right. Lewanika, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think the idea here, one, aim high indicates that something is flying, right? So I think in addition to these undead zombies, perhaps there is, whether it's a BBEG, we'll find out later on as we go through the deck, but perhaps there's some kind of undead drake or dragon involved. And so the aim high is indicative of the heroes who've been armed up, as Chris had spoken about. We did the skill challenge to get through the town, to get that great magic weapon. They've got the magic weapons. They're armed up. They're bolstered. They're getting back into the fight, and the first thing they end up having to do is aim high because they see this undead creature flying about, wrecking havoc, trying to open up additional points in the wall of this fortress.
Yeah, again, it kind of feels like that escalation of like the creatures are evolving where you have the siege, maybe it's multiple zombies, but they're like trying to break through at multiple points. That's their first combat, or again, maybe it's a skill challenge that involves multiple, avenues of success, failure. But once that's taken care of, you're like, okay, we can rest. We have resealed the walls or we've taken care of whatever's going on. And then now there's like this dragon or drake that comes in. Maybe it drops off a bunch of zombies inside town. So you thought you had the walls secured. The escalation of combat is now there's more on the inside with the civilians, and there's also the flying creature. So I think of it as a really bad thing. Chris is like, oh no, it's a magic item. It's a DMPC that's helping you out. And Liam and I are like, no, it's bad.
Aim high means death from above.
Aim high means death from above. Exactly. All right.
Well, what about the idea that some of the zombies are zombies that could fly before they became zombies? That was a bad description, but a pterodactyl gets turned into a zombie and it can still fly as a zombie.
Yep.
Still
Or
not the best
Aarakocra
description,
zombies.
Oh yeah, Aarakocra. Yeah.
Ooh. That's awful.
Yeah. That could be
That's
really
just
creepy.
frightening to think about.
You see the size of that chicken?
I'm just thinking about the Aarakocra that Edgar or whatever his name was from the D&D movie rode
Jarnathan.
down from the
Jarnathan. Yeah.
Jarnathan. Yeah, I'm thinking Jarnathan actually died in that scene, and now he's coming back for revenge. Harper's be damned.
That's right. All right.
Oh, that could even be the name of the adventure. Harper's be damned.
Harper's be damned.
Jarnathan's revenge.
Excuse me. All right. Let's get a more.
All right. So our next card here is a creature, human soldier. It's called Thraben Inspector. It costs 1 white to cast. The mechanics are when this creature enters, investigate, which means create a clue token. It's an artifact with a spend 2, sacrifice this token to draw a card. The flavor text is, if you've been at this as long as I have, nothing can surprise you. That's the hope, at least. And the image shows a figure, looks like a female to me, in like, again, sort of Van Helsing style gear, maybe like a paladin. It looks like there's something in its hand, almost looks like kind of like a fungus, almost like, or roots or something. I can't really tell. But essentially, this is someone who lives in this world and can see things coming before they get there, or again, they're inspecting after the fact and they can put clues together. So Lewanika, I'll start with you. How do you think this card affects our story so far?
So Hmm. I think this is definitely the town bureaucrat. I think whatever's going on in the battle, things have slowed down a little bit. Our heroes are kind of regrouping a little bit. At this point, things are kind of the conflict has settled just enough. It's not over by any means, but it's settled just enough where the heroes get a little bit of time to regroup. And this is some bureaucratic or administrative leader within the town who's going about trying to do their thing. And this just creates that social encounter where they're dealing with somebody trying to impress upon them what's important. Maybe it was something they saw. Maybe, as Blake C spoke about, there were undead riding the flying creatures, the creatures, or what have you. And so this is an issue where they're trying to provide that intelligence so they can get better equipment in this area or get word to people who could eventually come to help. And there's some kind of conflict with this individual. I think these are the moments in action movies or in good series where you expect to get a little bit of pushback on the heroes. Like, John McClane always knows what's right, but there's always somebody telling him, don't do that.
Hmm.
Eddie Murphy always had his boss when he in the Beverly Hills Cop movies. There's always somebody saying you can't do what you need to do just because your name's on the marquee. And I think this is that character.
So I had a kind of a similar thought where so maybe they're like an NPC who has been summoned or called for by this village saying, hey, we got some weird stuff out here. Like there's zombies and they're acting weird. And this is sort of a bureaucrat sort of thing. Like, well, okay, they're going to go and figure out what's going on. And they are not quite up to this. Like maybe there's even a bit of doubt. Like, there's not flying zombies. No, there are not these zombies that have magic items. That's not how zombies are. So the characters are like hired to escort them, or they just happen to be going the same way, same time, and so not like a Mr. Bean inept, but someone who's quickly over their head. They are looked to as the expert, and then when things start to hit the fan, they are like, I don't know how to deal with this. So it becomes an NPC that the players kind of have to protect, but is also a possible ally who can help them later on. So they can't just like let them get killed or like throw them under the bus. So I think it could create some interesting tension with them trying to do the right thing, but they're not quite qualified to the way that maybe the villagers see them. So how do the PCs play? Do they like try to like do what needs to be done, but make sure that this person stays in good graces with the village for their own political gains later, or they just throw them under the bus like person's a moron, don't listen to them, listen to us. I could see that being an interesting, it's a choice that the players can make and have fun either side of that. Chris?
Wow, I went way different than you guys did. I saw the little weird, creepy, I don't know, vine,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call those things. I looked at that as daylight's come out. Those things are starting to, crumble, pull back into the darkness. And to me, maybe during the fight, those, I'll call them vines that pop out of the ground, were actually grabbing villagers and pulling them into the darkness. And now the party gets their first clue as to what's really going on. And I see almost like an invasion of the body snatchers type thing where they're stealing villagers for whatever reason.
That could be like again, sort of like a rescue mission thing the next day. Do they go after, try to rescue them before they become more zombies? Or do they like, oh, nope, they're gone. Don't, because then you might have like the young person in the village, like, mommy, daddy, save my parent, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and I think that those two ideas that Chris's idea, and then your expansion on the idea, Michael, don't have to necessarily
Right. It's
be
not an either
in
or for
opposition. I
those.
think they can. I think they both work really well together. Um, I was definitely getting that Gorman vibe. Like, what do you mean this is your first zombie? How many zombie invasions have you been a part of? Two simulated.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
felt that looking at that, and they're looking at the thing like, okay, like they know this stuff on paper, but they've never seen it in real life. That I think that's kind of what they are. But I love Chris's idea that this is daylight after the night of the first battle. you get the tabulation of how many people went missing, and there are no bodies. And these aren't the kind of zombies that eat people. There isn't even significant amounts of blood. It's just the bodies were pulled back, and what you do see is you see these vines kind of shrinking back as dawn comes over, and pulling back into the ground or pulling back into the shadows, and they've been taken somewhere.
Yeah, I really like that as a concept. You know, again, I'm watching The Last of Us, very classic stuff. This should not be spoilery, but you know, the civilians, when things go wrong, what happens is the non-combatants, they go to like an attic or they go to a basement, right? That's just pretty common setup. So let's assume that's what this village does. Okay, when zombies attack, we know we send the women, the children, the non-combatants to the basement. Battle goes okay. They go to get the non-combatants. They're all gone. And there's just like a hole in the ground. Or like I said, just some vines that are like, where did they go? They weren't taken by the zombie, or they weren't killed by the zombies, but they're all missing. And there's just these vine remnants left over. Maybe it's a druid who's behind. Maybe it's a zombie druid who's behind the attacks. So there's a sort of a combination of like necromancy and druidic magic that is causing these vines to do the bidding of the zombies. I like that a lot. I think that would be a cool, kind of a mean GM, but kind of a cool reveal. Like, you know, you think you've done the right thing, you've saved the day, you go to get everybody out and they're still gone. I mean, that's a big kind of a gut punch. Depending on how you handle that, because I could see some players not liking that reveal, but I think for the right group, that's going to be like a gut punch that lands for, oh, this is worse than we thought. Now we've got to really step up and be the heroes. I like it.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to what you put on the marquee and that session zero or semi-session zero conversation. If the idea is you're here to defend a town, you know, all bets are off. This is people are going to go missing, people are going to die. We're going to start in media res, so some things have already occurred.
Yeah.
And as long as you sell that bit, you don't even have to tell them what has already occurred. But when you get it, it's not like, oh, I couldn't stop it. You knew before you got in that this was what the actual adventure was going to be. Yeah. So we just start in action. And now that's that opening chapter. That's the get used to the kinds of things you're going to fight. And now it's like, oh, okay, now we know what this mission is all about.
And again, that can be part of the description. Like, these zombies are not your grandma's zombies. They are changing. They are modified. They're doing tactics in a way that you won't expect. And so then you could even have the players go, well, that's kind of on us. We treated these like normal zombies. We knew we weren't supposed to, but we did anyways. Or maybe even you could have someone being like, I don't want you to be in the basement, you know, type of a thing. And so they could feel smart for kind of figuring out the thing. Like, oh, some people were taken, but not nearly as many because we didn't put the people where we normally put them, type of a thing. So, all right. I like that a lot. Moving on.
Now, Blake had actually said, Blake is in the chat, and Blake had said, I was thinking of Brotherhood of the Wolf, investigating with very unofficial methods for the greater good, is what he was thinking about when he saw that card. So I think that goes right along with it. Like, they're the official inspector from the king on all matters supernatural and undead, or unholy, so on and so forth. So they walk in with all this clout, and then we've got other issues.
Gotcha. So I think this next card does kind of fit with some of the ways we've been going. It's called Deranged Assistant. It is a creature human wizard, one colorless to cast. The text or the mechanics are tap, mill a card, add generic mana. I think that's colorless mana. To mill a card, put the top card of your library into your graveyard. The flavor text, Garl, adjust the slurry dispensers. Garl, fetch more corpses. Garl, quit crying and give me your brain tissue. If he doesn't stop being so rude, I'm quitting. And it's a 1/1 creature. So this is very much like your Igor's, your Frederick's, your assistants to the mad scientist. So, but this could be maybe our druid necromancer, or again, someone supporting the druid necromancer. This is why the zombies are not acting normal. They are being modified by magic by this person or the person this person's working for. Chris?
I'm a fan of putting things in or planning for things when the players feel like they are can't figure something out or maybe they think things are overpowered. This is the type of thing I would put in to go, okay, here comes the necromancer's assistant who's going to give you the clues you need to actually beating him. I like having that little, I don't know, my little safety net, so to speak. So that way the players don't get frustrated that they couldn't figure it out or they think the combat's too hard, that kind of stuff.
I think this also, well, one, it gives you some role play opportunities. Generally speaking, a lot of zombies, not a lot of communication. So it can be fun, can be funny. And again, these are not normal zombies. So you could give them intelligence to let them role play. But this gives you a role play opportunity. It also gives you that puzzle solving element where maybe we don't have to destroy all the zombies. We just have to destroy the mechanisms that are giving them these advanced abilities because this town knows how to deal with zombies. But these zombies are too much. So is it a device? Is it a ritual? Is it a substance that is being, like an ichor that's being milked from a Draco Lich type of a thing? It gives you a way other than just hitting things with a stick to still win. So a different combat encounter, a skill challenge opportunity, but it's not just your straightforward destroy everything on the field. It's stop the way that makes them special. Lewanika?
Yeah, I like that concept, and thinking about how and when to place it. And I agree with Chris. You always have to build in kind of that back door so it doesn't feel like Deus Ex Machina when the players are stonewalled. But you also have to find a way to introduce that. So I don't know if I would introduce everything that this character is doing that you see on this card at this point, but I definitely think one of the people who doesn't get pulled in by the vines, one of the few innocents who were in these basements, maybe he's found in a basket like or a chest, like there's just a chest made of some strange metal or something that he's hiding within. When the players are trying to suss this all out, they hear the thing rattle, they open it up and it's this person and he's crazy talking, and and maybe depending on how good they are at sussing out information, maybe they chalk it up to, oh, this guy saw something that's very horrible, locked himself in a box and didn't get taken. But they can't make sense because he's not necessarily giving up the ghost, so to speak, right then and there. He's not telling them a lot there, but this person knows things, and that should be known to the players. But then the inspector that we saw earlier says, "Well, I'll take him with me until we find out what's going on. You continue with what you're doing." And then at a later point, the players could say, "You know what? That guy is," or maybe they find out later he comes in at a later point, like he broke away and then he's running. Now the players catch him and they're like, okay, you weren't crazy. Something else is going on. And now he'll cave to their interrogations. Whereas before, unless they use some crazy, weird magical spell, he would not have necessarily done so.
It could also be almost like a puzzle where they repeat a phrase over and over again that appears to be nonsense or even like a nursery rhyme sort of thing. And then once in the right situation, like, oh, they were actually like telling us how to turn off the machine. It's left, left, right, left, up, down, left, left, right, sort of thing. Like they're saying something. I can't write it now, but if I had time, something that seems innocuous, but it could potentially be like, oh, that's how you turn it off, or that's where we need to go. And when you get into the forest, that's the paths that we need to take. Yellow fork right, green river down, type of a thing. It's like, oh, this is how we navigate the forest to get to the lair of the zombie druid type of a thing.
Yeah, I like the idea that this character, the big bad guy, did something that just shattered his mind, but he still understands that he was promised power and now he's shattered mind, body, and he's going to help the PCs in some way.
Yeah.
That could be a really cool role playing moment. Or he's just arranged and throwing the BBG under the bus so he can take power.
Right. It could be
Maybe
selfish.
He's a Sith apprentice. Yeah.
Or maybe when the BBG goes down at the end and and everything gets done, he's like because the heroes will not pay attention to somebody like him once they're fighting the bad guy. He disappears and he actually has now that the bad guy is gone, his mind is back and now he knows all the things he knows, and as well as he knows how the players work, so he can return at a later point.
All right, we have our next card. This is a creature human soldier. It's a Cathar commando. It's a one colorless, one white to cast. It has flash, which have not played Magic in a while. I think that means it can be cast even though, like, same as an instant, even though it's a creature. It has an ability, 1 mana, sacrifice this creature, destroy target artifact or creature, or excuse me, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this commando can sacrifice itself to take out something, like, again, artifact, enchantment. The flavor text, honorable tactics are for honorable foes. These werewolves are preying on innocent travelers. I'll stab them in the back while they sleep if I have to. And it is a 3/1 creature. All right. So how do we feel about this, Lewanika?
Well, I think this is we've done all the investigations. Now we're on the road. It's daylight, so we've got to go through the daylight to get to where we think these vines are going. Like, we know there's a village or there's a grotto. There's some piece of information that they've been able to pick up that leads to a location. On the way there, they find out this place is somewhat darkened and things are going badly. And basically a person from the village or somebody who's out there who's a big damn hero, and an NPC, not so much as in a Deus ex machina, because he's not going to save the day, but he's going to allow the conditions to do so. Basically, things are going to look bleak. Everything goes dark. They see the vines closing in. They're well aware at this point that that could be a death knell. There may be no escape from this. And then this person, reveals some amulet or some kind of thing, jumps into the center of the darkness, uh, you know, gets rid of the darkness, and the vines are still there. Zombies are still there. They are still there to fight, but that person dies in the process of bringing the light, so they're not invulnerable to all these attacks. And that's just by design. Like, his purpose is to show them this thing, and maybe it's broken at the end, so they can't get it to work, whatever the case may be. But that sacrifice he made gives the PCs more knowledge. They now know this light allows them to fight these vines and fight these things. In darkness, these things cannot be defeated.
Okay. Slightly different kind of thing, vibe. Again, I like this being like a someone in the village who, after that first attack, lost basically all their family. And so they are now like, I am willing to give up anything and everything to either hurt these zombies, take out what made them, or get my family back. And so they're just kind of like reckless. And so again, this is a role play situation of, do we go out of our way as PCs to keep this person alive? Or do we let them, sate their bloodlust and maybe die in the trying? It could be beneficial. This is a warrior, someone who's willing to do a lot of damage to the bad guys, but they're probably going to get themselves killed unless we actively try to stop that. So do you use them for, like your point, Lewanika, they just provide an attack, they destroy a thing for us, they provide a flank or a front? Or do we like, no, we can't let this person throw their life away, we got to save them? So then you got the role play element of, how do we handle this? Do we let them do the cool thing, make our job easier, or do we use our own resources to keep them safe from themselves? Chris, any thoughts on that?
Ooh, I got lots on this one too. Since I do run some horror games, I like to have another kind of character in my back pocket. If I think it's going to go too dark to have, an NPC sacrifice themselves, I like to use history or a lore and say, hey, you heard about somebody in the past who was this brave paladin that fought through all these werewolves, and the way they finally broke this enchantment was they sacrificed themselves. So it's more of a lore dump, so they get an idea on how to actually defeat, in this case it says werewolves, but maybe it's a necromancer or whatever. Also allows one of the players the choice, okay, do I want my character to be the one that makes that sacrifice? Mm-hmm. It leads to more role playing and a little bit more of a lore dump, but
you could even, depend on, I know Lewanika's mentioned like the in media res, which I am a fan of, but if you don't start there, maybe there's like a bard or just an entertainer in the tavern telling this story right before the zombies attack.
Or maybe the crazy person that they picked up out of the chest, that's the tale he was telling.
Oh, yeah.
like he was gibbering about this tale and the paladin who did all these things, and had the amulet of light and found the heart of darkness and sacrificed themselves to shatter the darkness, which allowed the heroes of old to defeat the enemy, kind of thing. Maybe that's the tale that they're spinning, and they may be thinking this individual's like a bard, but really they're like a shattered mind warlock who was bested in some way or had their power taken away,
Mhm.
and they want their power back. So they're literally trying to secretly give the players the info to go do the things so they can get their power back.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Again, also that gives you options as the game master. You can, it's just
Mhm.
lore. It could be, oh, they find, like, as they're getting closer to our bad guy, they find the body that has an amulet that they can use that magic item. Or it can literally be an NPC that's fighting side by side, kind of based on how you feel like the players would respond. If the needs, if their rolls are terrible and they're all going to get washed, it's a fighter that actually fights by their side. That you can kind of sort of almost like a modular encounter, like depending on how things are going or which person group you're running for, it could be a different thing in 3 different versions of this game. It could be lore in 1, it could be a item in 2, it could be a physical presence on the front line in the 3rd version of it, based on what you think would be best for that party. I like that a lot. I love having options as a game master to be like, oh, this is what that means this time, but it might mean something else the next time because of how things are going. All right.
Yeah, I've run games where somebody has to make a sacrifice in them, and some people love it, and some people shy away. So I like having that flexibility with this character to play around with that at the table and not just be so kind of already set on they're going to have to be the one that sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I'm playing this
Yeah,
as like
you
as a
gotta
one
build
shot,
it.
I'll sacrifice all day long. If
I'll
it's a
do that.
campaign, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've done short form campaigns where I played the character who then made the decision because I knew, look, there's only like two sessions left in this short form campaign. Uh, it doesn't matter to me if I die in this one. I'll get in it. I'll just pick up an NPC or a follower for the next one. But this is this character's moment, kind of thing. I'll take that even if there's 1 or 2 sessions left.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a full campaign that we're planning on years, mm, then it can be a little dicey. So I agree with you, Chris. Knowing what needs to be done, but having a couple different avenues at the ready and being able to read that table to make the decision as what's going to work best here is a powerful, powerful GM tool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So our next
agree.
card is called the Hinterland Logger. It is a creature, human werewolf, 1 green, 1 colorless to cast. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast last turn, transform this creature. And the flavor text: there's a forester lives up the highlands. Tried to sell her one of my finest axes at a bargain, but she wasn't interested by old Ristian. Now, this is a transformation card, which means it's dual sided. So we have that image. And then we also have the timber shredder. Whoops. Which is the transformation, which is a 4/2 werewolf creature that has trample. At the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, transform this creature. Flavor text: she has all the audacity to criticize my wares as inferior. All by old Rustian again. All right, so basically it's a double-sided card. You have the human side and you have the werewolf side. I'll just go first here. My first thought, this might be something that I'm like, I don't know that this fits what we're doing. It seems like very clear that werewolves and zombies, again, this is sort of a Ravenloft, Van Helsing sort of type of thing. Right now, I'm not seeing how this fits in without adding a whole lot of complications to our fairly straightforward zombie adventure. So maybe if it's a campaign, I would use it, but for a one shot right now, I'm thinking this is an unnecessary complication, other than maybe it's a helpful NPC. But I feel like we've already got 2 of those. So my current thought is to just ignore this card. But Lewanika, what are your thoughts?
So I think it makes for a pretty decent random encounter. And maybe they're helpful, maybe they're not. And I think that's how the social interaction goes, right? They're there, they've they're on the travel to find whatever the heart of darkness, so to speak. And along the way, they find this logging cabin, and it's maybe later in the afternoon. It's soon to be dark, and they need to, make some kind of trade with this individual to have a safe place to rest. And if they do it badly, maybe if one of the players comes on to the card showed a female human, right?
Yeah.
So maybe if they try to come on a little too strong or take some largesse, as occasionally gamers are wont to do, like, oh, they got a crazy bard in the party. He thinks this is his time,
Right.
and she takes not too kindly to that, and that could turn what could have been you at least have a safe place to rest. You can get a safe, nice, long rest without a problem into a now we're fighting, we're out in the cold. Long rest isn't possible because there's no real safe place. Whether you kill this creature or you escape this creature doesn't matter. They're not necessarily have to kill you, but she's pissed off and doesn't want any of you around.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the case, now all of a sudden your party has socially encountered their way out of said long rest. They have less resources for the rest of the adventure.
Okay. Uh, my on to that, my thought was kind of a Tom Bombadil situation where they're on their way to find out what's going on. They find this person who seems completely unperturbed by what's going on around them and seems to have a safe haven. Maybe they spend the night. They don't quite get why this place is not affected. Maybe they find out, maybe they don't. Chris, what are you thinking here?
I actually keyed in on the flavor text that tried to sell her one of my finest axes at a bargain. I like the idea that borrowed hostility card
Mm-hmm.
actually would drop in after this.
Okay.
Because a hinterland logger has the magic item they need to beat the big bad guy, or to help them beat the big bad guy. Maybe it's part of the ritual that needs to be done to beat the big bad guy. Something along those lines.
I mean, maybe that's why they are not affected. Maybe they don't even know why, but they have an axe that like repels necrotic energy. So there's like a buffer zone where none of the zombies are. And then you've got to like beg, borrow, steal this magic item from them.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was going with it.
Okay. I like that as a concept. All right. So we are now through our commons. We have our first uncommon card, and this is also a double-sided card. I did double check that.
Mm-hmm.
This is an artifact called the Chalice of Life, and then on the other side is the Chalice of Death. So the Chalice of Life is an artifact, 3 colorless mana to cast. Tap it, you gain 1 life. Then, if you have at least 10 life or more than your starting life total, transform the artifact. And the flavor text is the sweet taste of hope's promise. And then the Chalice of Death is a colorless artifact. You tap it, target player loses 5 life. The bitter taste of life's only certainty. So it's got an artifact that can give you life and or take other people's life away. My initial thought here is this is tied into whatever the zombie druid's doing, but I'm open to other suggestions. Lewanika? Oh, sorry, Chris.
Sorry, I just, my brain went right to the old Disney movie, The Black Cauldron. This is the thing that's making the undead, and they have to stop it somehow. Which, by the way, was a very good movie, but very dark.
Yeah.
Not one for kids.
Yeah.
But that's where my thought went to first is, maybe it's a really big chalice or a cauldron and they have to try to stop it as the bad guy keeps... maybe that's what he's trying to do with the villagers. He's trying to put them into the cauldron to change them into the undead. And the party has to stop that ritual from happening.
Or maybe it's almost like a trick. If he forces them or they force the villagers to drink, they become these zombies. Maybe there's like a transference of life energy for every zombie. That creature gets more powerful, so they're creating zombies just for their own benefit, and the attacking the villagers is actually kind of like secondary to what's going on. It's just like beneath their concern. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think this is the artifact is what is creating the zombies, but what it actually looks like and how it works, I'm not sure about yet. What are your thoughts, Lewanika?
So I liked the duality of these
Chalice.
chalice. Who knows? Um, in that, but I kind of think of it as, what if it's both? It's the chalice of life and death,
Okay.
and essentially you bring in people and that's pulled through the vines and it takes them through some netherverse and deposits them near where this item is or what have you. And then like you said, he's basically trying to scare or convince people to drink of this, and depending on uh I wouldn't say luck, but depending on mystical factors, it determines whether it turns them into a zombie or locks their soul away, uh feeding his life. So one of two things happen: he either creates zombies that can go out and bring more people, or it locks their soul, which provides energy for his continued existence. So whatever this thing that's making them is, maybe it's in the process of becoming a lich, but it may not be there yet. This could become its soul chalice or what have you, because I don't use the term phylactery anymore, but and I don't think Soul Chalice is it. I forget what the new title is, but essentially this is that. This will become that, but he has to get X number of souls to be locked into the soul portion to do that. And like you said, it's almost secondary. Basically, it's creating zombies. So when he does, he uses the vines to send them out somewhere to do more. So the zombies go out. When they die, they create vines. Those vines burrow through to find life and pull life back here to feed this. So it's ever expanding, trying to get him the total number of souls necessary.
So it's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like the Amway of the undead, so to speak.
Exactly. All right. Anything else, Chris, you want to add for
How's your
reveal?
upline? And what's in
No.
your wallet?
Yeah. No, I like that. I like the idea that it's feeding the big bad guy the life that he's stealing from the others.
All right. We are on to our second uncommon card. All right. And it is this card, laboratory maniac. It is a blue human wizard. 1 mana, 2 colorless to cast. The text: if you withdraw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. And then the flavor text: his mind whirled with grand plans, never thinking of what might happen if he were to succeed, which is a 2/2. And our images of sort of a mad scientist sort of character hooked up to some machines with green energy flowing around. And it looks like they're flipping a big switch, sort of a thing. So, Chris, any thoughts here?
I went right for Igor from the old Young Frankenstein, and he's just flipping levers randomly.
Igor?
Yeah, Igor.
Yeah. It's
They're screaming,
Frankenstein.
"Abby, no!"
Frankenstein.
Yes.
At first, but I mean, I don't know if I would say this is the big bad guy. This guy doesn't quite look like the big bad guy. He looks like, because I mean, he's wired to the machine. Maybe he's the experiment that the big bad guy's got, and they've got to defeat him to get to the big bad guy. Or he could be the big bad guy.
What are your thoughts, Lewanika?
I was thinking this person and the one that we found that was crazy are the same person. Something in this the big bad's plan split them into two. That's why the mind was shattered. He remembered the song and the story of the old, whereas this is the part that's just in pain and in torture. And they look at this person and see the same person that they saw back there, realize they are physically the same person. Pardon me. There should be some kind of clue to let give them to let them know that he was split in some fashion. Maybe maybe that person had an outfit that was two colored, and then this person has the same two colors but they're opposite, and or what have you. And this one knows my mind has been torn asunder. Part of me is away, the other part is here. And wherever the away part is, that's where the zombies appear. And then they realize, oh no, he wasn't just locked in that chest. Somebody placed him in that chest, placed that chest there. That's where the zombies were going. So somebody in the know in the village knew that that's where the all the innocents would be. They put the chest down there in advance. Then when the zombies released, that's where the vines would go to. That's where everything were going. And he's actually just reaching out, trying to find the other half of him to bring him back. But that chest keeps the vines from actually doing that, and they just grab other people around. So basically, that's the mechanism that directs where the zombies go.
So my thought here, it may be getting too complicated, but almost like this is the patsy for the actual main bad guy. Like they don't realize what they're doing is causing different problems. And it's almost like the zombies are slightly like a metaphor where this person is stealing their brain. So they're not like eating the brains, but they are like stealing their memories. That somehow this chalice, this artifact, is taking the mind memory of the people, giving it to them. So they are expanding their knowledge and power, which is creating the zombies. Again, it's almost like a metaphor. They're losing their brains and becoming mindless, and they just want more power. And there's this other power that is sort of like, oh, I'll help you do that, because they're just sort of being used. But again, especially for like a one shot, that might be too many levels of.
Yeah,
Might be easier. They're the bad guy. Just move on. But I don't know.
I think if with this particular card, especially if we're going to link him in any way to other things that have been going on, that moves this away from the here's your one shot to here's your campaign arc or here's your full campaign.
Hmm. Yeah, there's not a ton more we can get out of this one, I don't think.
Okay.
It's either the big bad guy or he's the patsy.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next card. I don't know if I could spell. It is called Wild Hunger. It is a green creature. Actually, no, sorry, it's an instant. It is a 1 green, 2 colorless. Target creature gets +3/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. It has flashback for 3 colorless and 1 red. Again, haven't played Magic in a while. I think that means you can cast it from your graveyard one time and then it goes out of the game. So you can cast it a second time after you cast it. The flavor text is Otto the Hunter was filled with many grand ambitions. The snake was filled only with Otto. And the image is of a very big snake. Well, it looks like maybe in like a living room. So it's it's an instant that buffs a creature, and it's +3/+1 is no joke. So, all right, Lewanika, any thoughts on this one?
So I think I would tie this to the werewolf that we saw earlier, right? I think that this is an issue where if the players got into a conflict with the werewolf, somebody probably got hit. And whoever gets hit, they have this brief moment. They don't necessarily turn into a werewolf, but there's something that occurs in this at this section of the adventure where they're in a battle. Maybe they're in a battle with giant snakes or what have you, and they wolf out, almost like a single turn of barbarian rage, so to speak, or something like that, where they actually get a chance to kind of do that. Maybe they get feral claws or whatever, and it should scare the party into thinking, "Oh my goodness, are we turning into werewolves?" So like anybody who was successfully hit might have this.
All right, I would say if I'm still dealing with a necromantic druid, this is just a wild shape. This is like part of the big bad battle. Maybe it's like a multi-tier combat. They beat him, they become a snake, or they turn to a snake. The first time they beat him, then they come out of it. But I would probably just make a giant snake part of the main battle. Chris.
Oh, okay.
My brain went to a naga.
Mm-hmm.
There's a naga in here. Maybe the naga's the big bad guy. I mean, they're pretty tough. They've been around for a little while. Maybe it's some sort of Lich Naga type thing as the big bad guy that's been controlling things from the back.
I think that would work as well. All right, here is our rare. It is a red card called Through. Oh, no. Sorry. It's called Through the Breach. It is an instant arcane, 4 colorless, 1 red to cast. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Sacrifice that creature at the beginning of the next end step. Splice onto arcane, 2 colors, 2 red. And the explanation, as you cast the arcane spell, you may reveal this card from your hand and pay its splice cost. If you do, add this card's effect to that spell. So I guess you can like simulcast it for a just slightly different cost. But then the image is a big, looks like just like a big, almost like a ship rock purple thing going through a field of lightning. So yeah, I don't know. All right. Lewanika, any thoughts on this?
So I was thinking when I think of Through the Breach, I think of a wall or a defensive line, and something is breaking through. And I think the idea here is that there's something that powers um, the spells in this final battle. Like there's a thing. We may have had to telegraph that a little bit, but there's something within the battle zone that's going on that will allow an arcane spellcaster's spells to pierce more deeply than before, or maybe it's just the environment, and maybe they get an extra die of damage of whatever damage causing spells that are non-area effects. So, if they're using Eldritch Blast, they get an extra die of damage to the total Eldritch Blast spell, not to each blast. That's crazy talk. But basically allows them to pierce or do more damage than normal in some fashion. That's kind of where I would think. And maybe it's environmental. Maybe they get here, and while this is the bastion of evil, this is the heart of darkness, and the evil person has all this power. Evil has a nasty tendency, especially in darker realms, to uh, not go as well for the BBEG as they want. Famously, the realms of dread are prisons for their dreadlords as well as for the people who are there, and it's actually more for the dreadlord. So just when the dreadlord thinks everything's going their way, all of a sudden now the realm provides some power for the party to help them defeat the dreadlord or punish the dreadlord in some fashion.
Okay. Chris, what are your thoughts here, sir?
I like the idea that this, whether it's a ritual or something, but through the breach, we pull the hero from the past into now or bring them back from the dead. And they fight with you and they help us defeat the big bad guy.
All right. I think thematically, like story wise, that's a very cool detail. It makes me think of like Wheel of Time and the horn of whatever it's called. I don't remember. What is it? I don't remember. Anyway, but I think I'm more on Lewanika's brainwave here. It would be like an environmental thing that's happening in the final battle. Maybe it even like moves around either randomly or maybe in a predictive pattern where it's like a 6x6 square of necrotic energy that whatever bad guys or zombies are in that area are overcharged. They get bonus to attack, bonus to damage. Maybe they get multiple attacks. Maybe they heal, that type of thing. And so then it becomes part of the combat. It's almost like a puzzle of, oh, we know that's going to move. We need to take these zombies out because otherwise they're going to be the overcharged ones, type of a thing. So that it's not just hitting things with a stick till they stop moving. It becomes an environmental puzzle factor that also has to be used to equate or to help figure out the battle. But I do like the story element of yours a lot, Chris. The idea of the breaches, the long vanquished or the long lost hero is still fighting the fight somewhere else, and then if you are successful, you can return them to this world. Either they don't even help you with the fight, maybe they just get brought back, and you have saved this other person that you didn't know about. Because the way we're setting it up, a lot of the villagers are going to die. So that could be a nice bow on we weren't able to save these people, but we actually ended up getting to save someone we didn't even know was in danger at the time. So,
Well, in keeping with the chalice of life and death, if the souls uh, that were found worthy enough to sustain the creature's life are in the side of life, they're still alive. They're just captured. And so maybe through this battle, that's what we're doing. As you're defeating the creatures, you're creating this breach, and slowly people start coming out of the side of life, the cauldron of life or whatever. And so maybe that hero's the first one, and they're not necessarily going to help you, but they're going to tell you, keep fighting. The more you fight, the more people I can save. So they become the ones that are pulling more people out, and that's what's actually hurting the bad guy. Maybe it's every so many people that are pulled out. That's what reduces the resistance of the bad guy. Like maybe the bad guy has this huge level of resistance and your attacks are barely getting through, but each person that comes out reduces that by one or two or what have you. Commoners maybe one, but for that big hero, maybe he reduced it by five. So all of a sudden now you're able to get some damage through that. And so you're actually fighting to whittle down that damage and doing different things, destroying nodes of power or what have you, or so that more people are saved. So even if there were people who died, there are actually probably far more that can be saved.
right.
And as you save them, you now bring this huge bad guy down to a point where now he can be defeated. And that's that next level of the fight.
Gotcha. Okay. So it looks like we do have a couple bonus cards as well. So there's a green card
Bonus card.
that is called the Spider Spawning.
Ooh, don't tell Josh he hates spider stuff.
Oh.
Show the picture.
Now
Show
that
the
I,
picture.
now that I know that. So Spider Spawning, it is a sorcery for colorless green, one green. You create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach for each creature in your graveyard. Flashback 6, colorless 1 black. So again, I believe that means you can cast it from your graveyard one time. So you're going to create a whole bunch of spiders for all the dead creatures that are in the ground. Again, this could be a second tier to, if not the final battle, maybe a middle battle where they kill a lot of zombies, and then all those zombies are reborn as like spider creatures or some sort. I am a big fan of taking all the various bodies of zombies and then they meld together into one giant form. I usually make it a big hulking thing, but I could see a giant, basically spider-like figure made out of various zombie parts. So a zombie piece spider sort of a thing. That wouldn't make people uncomfortable, especially Josh. I'm going to be running a game soon for Josh. I might have to bring that up. I don't want to surprise him because that would be mean, but maybe. We'll see. Anyways, Chris, what are your thoughts around the spider spawning?
First thought was maybe that heroes have some sort of item that they can use that spawns a bunch of spiders that can help them. Because it'd be a little creepier to have spiders pop out to help them than just, a bunch of kittens and puppies that pop out. I don't know if you throw a bunch of kittens and puppies at bad guys in your game, but the idea is if we're playing a horror theme, then we're kind of fighting fire with fire in a way.
True. Yeah. Okay. Lewanika, any thoughts?
So along the lines of what Chris is thinking, I'm thinking basically that the power of this place is such that it corrupts all magics. So any summon spells, let's say you summon something, they still do those things, but they look like spiders. So let's say you summon elementals, that's fine, but they're spider elementals. Let's say you summon celestial beings, that's fine, they're celestial spiders. Or uh, since Wild Shape is very monochrome in that they're either flying, they're walking, or they're swimming. If you got a player druid, it doesn't matter what they do; it looks like a spider. It just some part of the magic of the Chalice of Death or this location just warps magic so that nothing looks as clean and pristine as it should.
Gotcha. And there's always just the classic Hobbit. There's giant spiders in the forest along the way to the fight the bad guy, and it's like we need a combat. Okay, giant spiders, just
Yeah.
always a good option for a random encounter, or just a let's have another fight type of a thing. We have another bonus card. This is a legendary rare foil card, and it is Grizzlebrand the Demon.
That doesn't sound like a big bad. I don't know what does.
So Grizzleband is a legendary creature demon. It costs 8 mana, 4 colorless, 4 black to summon. It has flying, lifelink, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. It's a 7/7 creature. And the flavor text is Evason emerged from the broken Hevel Vault. I'm sure I slaughtered those words. But her freedom came at a price. Him, Thala the Night Cathar. I mean, is this the main bad guy? Is this the final form of the bad guy? Like, this is what it's trying to turn into? Is this the behind the whole machinations? Like, this is like, this could even be like the dun 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 end of an adventure. But if there's ever a part 2, turns out this was secretly who was actually behind everything. Chris, thoughts?
I like what you just said. This is the big bad guy that comes up later. He's the one that's going to be down the road when they get much higher powered. Because I like to run the zombies at a lower level, so they're not going to fight a demon at a lower level. I mean, they might. I know some players that might, but
I mean, they put it in the game. Players are going to fight it, but yeah. But yeah, again, this is a really tough creature in Magic. I mean, I don't know if you can get 8 mana. Like, it's not going to hit tables very often, but for inspiration, this is no joke. This is not a level 3 bad guy. This is like a level 8, 9, 10 bad guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this really comes down to what tier are you making this play at? If you're playing a tier 1 campaign, this ain't it. This ain't he. I think you have no choice but to have that be the dun dun dun. If you're playing tier 2, I would probably say about the same. Tier 3, this could be the one. And I think like I said, if you're playing tier 3, then let this guy be the big bad and let him be the final fight. He was doing all the things. But I like exactly what Blake had said, is that the souls that were corrupted that went and that then come back, if they allowed if they somehow or another allowed the whispers of this demon in their head, they're now corruption, and they are basically his life link to the land. So even if there's a dun 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 and he goes away at the end of that, your further adventure is you have these people who've been freed, or you have that crazy person who you let go at the very beginning, who's out there, who's heard these whispers, and they're out there talking to other people.
It's almost like a cult.
The next the next campaign is really cults of this demon popping up, because you know that one of them will start this whole thing again.
Yeah. I also like the idea, tying back to what Chris said about the hero from the past age coming through the breach. Maybe this is like the denouement of the campaign. Is like, no, you don't even know what's coming. Like, for 20 years, I've been on the cross fighting this thing, and it's now targeting our world, which is very sort of upside down from Stranger Things sort of a thing. But yeah, like the hero comes back and is like, no, you don't even know what you're in for. But then that's the part 2, tier 2, or second campaign sort of a thing.
Blake says the cult of Grizzlebrand does sound metal.
Yeah. That is pretty hardcore. I'm in that band with you, Blake. I am in that band with you.
Nice. All right. So, Chris, any final thoughts? Again, if you want to like circle back to a card that maybe we skipped over or change, or just wrap up your thoughts. I think I could run this tomorrow loosely. The general outline I think is there. I don't think it's anything like revolutionary. It's pretty standard, but I think there's enough here to run a fun one shot. But anything you want to add as we wrap things up tonight?
I agree with you. This could be a very easy one shot to kind of come up with. Zombies are always easy to use, especially since you can do what I do and make them more than just zombies. Maybe they have a little more abilities, but I like how it flowed together, and I think it could be a very nice, fun, dark one shot.
Yeah,
I don't.
in the past, I think we have done that. Like, what system would we run this in? I mean, obviously D&D, but I know you're a big fan of Shadow of the Demon Lord. This definitely feels like a Shadow of the Demon Lord type game.
Absolutely, especially if there is a demon involved,
Mm-hmm.
because then it's very simple.
Ta-da.
He's trying to escape from the void and get to the earth that we're on, and that could be the kind of reveal that the players find at the end of that little session, which really helps them get their next level, or breaks them out from just being normal, everyday heroes to being big bad heroes. So I definitely would run this in Shadow of the Demon Lord. That would be very easy to do.
Okay. So, Lewanika, again, I think this is the first time you've joined us for one of these. How did you enjoy the process? Any thoughts? Any final thoughts, words before we move on?
I absolutely loved this this process. It was so much fun. I think Josh will hate you because you've given me a whole adventure idea that I now want to put together and write. And he's gonna like slow your roll. We've got other things we're working on.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought as far as a system, I have backed the Ghostfire Games. Uh, um, um, why is the name escaping me now? Their
Because you're
their
old.
grimdark book that Sean. Pardon? Grim
'Cause you're
Hollow.
old.
Thank you. Yeah. Don't put too fine a point on it, my friend. Don't put too fine a
They
point
say
on
the
it.
mind is the first thing to go. I don't remember what comes after that.
Yeah.
No, I heard it was mine was the second.
Yeah.
Well, what's the first? I don't recall.
You're going to
My
remember.
my waistline.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that was gone from me a while ago. So Grim Hollow Revisited or Grim Hollow Transformed would be the perfect, if you wanted to do 5e, would be the perfect system for this, because then you have those rest rules. Because when I mentioned weren't able to get a good night's rest, that type of thing, that becomes very important with in the Grim Hollow setting. So I think that would work really well. Obviously, all the dark themes of Etheris and such would work really, really well. I can't wait till that for that to come in when that gets done. This is definitely something like I'm taking these notes with the entire point to be able to use Grim Hollow to run that. And you know, for all those listening, a couple of our Patreons are on the line. Thank you, Blake. Look forward that maybe next year, but love to have you join us when you see this. So you may know some of the stuff that's going on, but I'll be sure to throw in some twists that you haven't seen yet.
All right. Well, again, Lewanika, thank you so much for joining us. Chris, as always, thank you for being here. For those listening now or in the future, I hope you enjoy this process. I think we got the audio working. So, but this is something that Chris and I did pretty regularly before. So I'd like to do this a couple times, this year before we wrap up this year on the show. If you are interested in listening to some of our old ones, a lot of them are still available either on the RPG Academy YouTube channel or now on archive.org, which is where all of our audio podcasts now live. If you just search for Synergy Session and the RPG Academy, you should find there's probably a couple dozen of these out there. I will mention that we should have another one of these shows, not necessarily the Synergy Session, but Tabletop Cafe in 2 weeks, because we do these every other week. But then the next time we do after that, Badges will be live for a Catacon. So that's the convention that Chris and I work together to run. Lewanika has been a special guest multiple times. Josh has been there before. It is an absolutely wonderful convention, small, like we're hoping maybe 700 people this year. And this is our 13th year. So we are calling it a Catacon the 13th. And we are, in fact, leaning into horror and supernatural themed games. All gaming is welcome, but we're trying to sort of maybe bring a few more of those to the fold. So this is exactly the type of game that you might play at a Catacon if you're interested. So badges, VIP badges go on sale June 7th. All other badges go on sale in August, and the event is actually in November in Dayton, Ohio. So Lewanika, any sign-offs you want to do before we completely sign off, like socials, all that kind of, where you want people to go check things out?
Absolutely. One of the best places you can go, you're already here if you're listening to this or watching this. That's right on the Tabletop Journeys YouTube channel. But www.tabletopjourneys.com is a great place to catch just about everything at. And feel free to join our Discord. We would love to have you there. Join in the conversation. We've got a ton of different channels to discuss different types of things, the different games we run. And by all means, join us on our Patreon if you're so inclined. We have a lot of fun stuff coming up for our Patreons. They have not only access to at least one monthly game, but they also have access to several other benefits as well. And that would be www.patreon.com/ttjourneys. I believe I got that right, but it'll probably be in the show notes at some point when this comes back out as well. But definitely join us, and we'd love to have you. Look forward to it. And a Catacon, please go. I'd love to see folks live there. I've met several fans and audience members of the show that have become friends through there. I'm looking forward to running Star Trek again this year. I've got characters saved. Michael's son has one of them, and a couple of our other friends there have characters from last year that I have not let anybody play again because I want them to be able to play those characters again.
Fantastic.
So, and I have some special spooky stuff coming up for a Star Trek game. Just for them.
I did want to quickly mention before I let Chris go that I have got a couple one-shots that are brewing in my brain that I would like to test drive before I run them at Catacon. One is a Call of Cthulhu game because I've never ran that system, but I'm interested. And one is a sort of a Call of Cthulhu style D&D game. And so I might see if you could round me up some patrons that would want to play that. Not as like the Patreon game, but just figure out a one shot, and they would be first on the list for people who are interested. But I'll talk to you more about that later. Chris.
I don't do much on social media.
Good man. Smart.
But if you aren't doing anything tomorrow night, jump on the old YouTube to Smuggler's Blues. That's the long-running Star Wars campaign I've been running. We switched to Thursday nights just because scheduling worked out a little easier. We're gonna back in the mix with all the shenanigans of the crew. We've actually added a new crew member. We call them crew members with Emma. She's joined with her droid specialist. It's very hard to explain her character, but jump on over, check us out. It's a lot of fun. We're having a good time with the story now that we're back to it. Otherwise, for sure, see me at Catacon. I could very easily take what we did tonight, spin that into a Shadow the Demon Lord game, and pop it up there for a Catacon.
Fantastic. And again, thank you for the folks that are here now, maybe folks in the future. We are trying to do these regularly every other week, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, Tabletop Cafe. So if this is something you're enjoying, please come back. Send us emails to whatever email Lewanika mentioned before. If you have questions, things you want us to cover, anything that we're at your beck and call in a lot of ways. But this has already ran long, so I'm going to sign off quickly to say, remember, folks, if you're having fun,